Welcome, travelers, to PA's Nightmare Wednesdays. As always, welcome to my realm of nightmares. Allow me to be your personal assistant into my realm. Come in, take a seat, get comfortable, for when you step into my realm, there's no stepping out.
A loud noise startled me awake, despite being in a deep slumber. It took no time for me to realize that I was receiving a video call. I jumped out of bed and scurried across the room to answer it. The voice on the other end was one that I recognized. "Hello, Commander. I need to speak with you about an urgent mission concerning a group of miners we have lost contact with on Mars." "Yes, sir. I will be down in the briefing room in 5 minutes," I said. I quickly hurried about my small space, throwing on my clothing before rushing out of my quarters and to the briefing room with HQ. I saw that my team had already arrived upon entering the room. I greeted them with a quick nod and asked if they had any idea as to why we had been drug out of bed at this ungodly hour. "You and your team have been brought here to discuss your next mission. You will be charged with leading a mission onto the surface of Mars. Your goal is to find and retrieve the lost miners. We have been out of communication with them for over 48 hours. So, we are sending in your team due to the fact that you've had a lot of success with these kind of missions in the past. Good luck, Commander," HQ explained. Leaving HQ with an uneasy feeling, I went back to my quarters and reviewed all of the information that I was given. In the packet of information I was given, there was the last recording HQ received from the mining crew. I placed the tape in the player and intently listened. At first, there was nothing, then a sharp burst of static, followed by a transmission that began to play. No, we should not be here. Our mining has disturbed something that has been lying dormant, but now it's awake. Heed my warning. If you receive this transmission, abandon all activity here and save yourself," one of the miners warned. The transmission ended with a deafening roar and the miners screaming. The loud roar I heard at the end of the transmission was concerning, so I went to work trying to determine where it came from. I put it in an analyzer, but it didn't come back with any known matches. It sounded like it could be from a living creature. However, at the same time, it could be something different altogether. I was lost deep within my thoughts. I hadn't realized we had landed. That was, until one of the crew members shook me. "Sir, we have arrived. We are preparing for departure. I would suggest getting your suit on and meeting us at the loading bay," the crew member said. Getting my suit on and filling my pack with all the necessary items that I may need to find and retrieve the miners. If there was anything to find and retrieve, that is. The thought alone came unbidden, but at the same time, it was a likely possibility. The fear in his voice and the noise at the end of the recording has given me great cause for concern. Now that we are on Mars, I would be lying if I said I was not one jump scare away from pissing my pants. I made my way to the loading bay and prepared myself for whatever it is that we were about to stumble into. I pressed a button, watching as the ramp began its slow descent onto the red planet. I stepped out of the ship, pulling out the receiver to get the last known location of the miners, and the results wasn't too bad. The destination was just over 2 hours away from our landing zone on foot. We went and retrieved the rovers to reduce the amount of time it would take to get to our destination. We pulled the rovers out of the loading bay. The trip would only take 30 minutes now. The drive along the planet's serene surface was relaxing, but now, here we are, finding ourselves at the mouth of a cave. The atmosphere had drastically changed upon entering the cave. I had a very bad feeling, and it was validated shortly after getting further inside. We rounded a corner, came face to face with a fresh corpse. We walked over to it and analyzed the area around him. He had written his last words in the dirt. "He who enters here abandons all hope." And I didn't understand why he would choose those as his last words. I removed my scanner from my pack to recover his identity. He appeared to be one of the miners that we were searching for. I had no clue what happened to him. It looked like some kind of animal or machine chewed him up and spat him out. The floor started to vibrate, and an all too familiar sound was heard echoing deep inside the cave. "Get to the exit now! We can't be caught here when this cave comes crashing down!" I yelled over the noise to my team. Turning around, we rushed to the entrance of the cave. However, there was a wall where the entrance once was. "What do we do now?" Frank yelled. "Well now, there isn't much else we can do other than bend over and kiss our asses goodbye. Huh, Frank?" The floor cracked and a massive hole formed, swallowing everyone up like a maw of a gigantic beast, dropping us into a massive abyss, but no one seemed to be injured from the impacts. I retrieved my flashlight after regaining my bearings. I slowly made my way around the dark room with nothing but my flashlight till I finally came upon a light switch. The room was flooded with a blinding white light. In the middle of the room sat a table with yet another dead body on it. However, this one was strapped down and had clear indicators of someone or something performing a surgical operation on them. On closer inspection, I realized that this was one of the miners we had been sent here to retrieve. I continued with my search of the lab when I heard a noise in the corner of the room. What came out was a humanoid creature. It moved fast, launching itself with its hind legs and taking flight. It cleared the entire length of the room in a blink of an eye. It tackles Ken onto the ground. We try to pull the thing off of him, but the front two appendages shoot out into his neck. Before we knew it, the creature throws us off and spins around to face us. It stands on its hind legs, showing that the creature was bipedal. It easily stands over 8 feet tall while on its hind legs. Frightened, one of the team members opened fire. The bullets ricocheted off its glossy black skin, causing them to be sent back at the team. A big burly man came running up behind the creature during the chaos and tackled it to the ground. The creature was caught by surprise. The man, pulling out a surgical saw, and easily dismembered the creature's limbs. He started with the front two appendages and continued from there. Doing that caused the creature to bleed out, but only after the chaos died down had I realized the stray bullets ended up killing James. "What the fuck was that? And who the hell are you?" I asked the stranger.
"My name is Anthony,"
he replied.
"And that, my friend, was something that lives deep underground. And trust me, our mining has disturbed it. Now, I call these ugly bastards insectoids, considering they are clearly mostly insect, however, having humanoid characteristics."
I noticed he is clearly in a miner's work uniform after getting a closer view of him. "You have been here for 2 full days, and that's the best name you could come up with, huh?" Oh, Frank laughed.
"Well, if you got something better to call them, then I'm all ears,"
Anthony retorted. Frank shook his head.
"Yeah, I didn't think so, numbnuts. So just sit there and let the adults talk. These bastards are bulletproof, as you have seen. They can't actually see you. They can damn well hear you. Any sound can bring them down to your location in seconds, and they never hunt alone. Cutting off the limbs disables them and eventually causes them to bleed out. This This is the only way I've found to be able to kill them. But, as you've noticed, frontal assaults is best avoided.
Yeah, I can see that. This doesn't make things easy. We need to be quiet and avoid getting detected at all costs. There's just one problem we have right now, and that's finding a way out. Any idea on that? I question.
You think I would still be here if I'd found a way out? Seriously. Like, you think I was just waiting here for you fucking bastards? 'Cause you're so high and mighty? Like, I couldn't do it without you? Yeah, that makes sense. I've been hiding in this room since these creatures showed up. They're nocturnal. They don't come out during the day, unless they hear a sound. We need to just stay quiet and find a way out. I suggest you search the area for weapons, considering the fact that conventional weapons are useless, before we head out.
Anthony grumbles. Searching through the room, not finding anything particularly useful, other than a few axes and a flare gun, which happened to have a few extra cartridges. We prepared to set out further into the subterranean structure, once armed with our new weapons. The team turned on their flashlights. We cautiously exited the lab, slowly creeping our way through the structure. It looked much like the rest of it had up until this point. The walls were made of a metallic substance, while ventilation pipes ran the length of the hallway, with no signs of the insectoids as we continued further. I led the group, followed by Anthony, Frank, Eric, and finally Mike. We ventured down the hall, and a sound that might as well have been a herd of elephants charging came from the back of the group. Mike had dropped his flashlight. The look on his face was one of pure terror. We all held our collective breath as we waited to see if anything would happen. A buzzing sound could be heard from above us. We all slowly turned our flashlights upward, only to witness the creatures diving down in the direction of Mike. Much like a hawk, they dove down at their prey. The insectoids were on him before any of us could react. Having to sit there and listen to his screams of anguish for what felt like an eternity was unbearable. We were all silent until they were finished. The mangled body parts of our former friend lay scattered all over the place. Our hearts were wrenched as we stared at the dead body of another one of our friends. The worst part was not being able to say anything. Performing the sign of the cross as a gesture of mourning was all that we could do. However, Frank was set into a frenzied rage upon seeing his longtime friend laying ripped apart on the ground and left to rot. The screams that escaped his lips were full of sorrow. This caused multiple of the insectoids to fly at him. Frank takes one of them out with a frenzied slash, but the others were on him in mere moments. Watching two of our friends die just minutes apart is not something that any of us had expected while on this rescue mission. The shock quickly set in, but there was no time to mourn our friends. We needed to get out of here, now. We were moving as quietly as possible, attempting to get out of range of this horde of creatures. We did not bother trying to open any doors that were sealed. It was to prevent making any unnecessary noise. Finally, we rounded a corner, and the hallway opened up into a room that contained a bunch of cylinder pods, which held more of these mutated bastards. Entering the room, while making sure to stay quiet, we began to explore. The room is circular. It contains many pods with the insectoids inside. However, we had no way of knowing if they were alive or not. What happened next could only be described as the slowest act of stupidity I had ever witnessed. Eric walked over to the pods and tapped on the glass. Yes, this stupid motherfucker tapped on the glass like he was at some sort of goddamned aquarium. This caused the eyes of every creature in the tubes to simultaneously open. I yelled for them to run, As the glass began to break and the creatures clawed their way out of the pods, Eric was still standing there like he had no idea what was happening. We heard his screams as we ran down the hallway trying to escape the angry horde of creatures. They were far faster than we could have imagined. Coming from all sides, we were pinned up against the wall as they closed in. I grabbed the flare gun out of my pack and fired it at the group of creatures that had now slowed down as if to savor the victory of the hunt, ready to strike down their prey. This was my last-ditch effort. The flare erupted and made contact with the creatures. They burst into a flame, much like a fire if it were to make contact with dead wood. Noticing that the smoke from the fire was being blown away from us, I looked over to Anthony. I pulled him in the opposite direction. If there was a breeze, then maybe, just maybe, there was a way out. We noticed that the hallway we were following gradually went uphill. Traveling for what felt like a lifetime, we finally came out to a bright day on Mars. The red planet had never looked so beautiful. There, the two rovers laid abandoned and inviting. We hopped onto one of them and made our way back to the ship. Upon our arrival, we noticed that the loading bay was still wide open. Both the pilot and the security detail lay dead upon our arrival. It looked as if they had been dead since we left. I can only assume that the sound of our rovers drew them to the ship shortly after we left. Hearing a sound on the ceiling, we looked up to see at least 5 of those fucking creatures, and one of them was heading straight for us. Anthony pushed me out of the ship, and I fell down the ramp, losing the flare gun during the fall. I looked up only to see Anthony being eaten alive. His screams alone were gut-wrenching. I heard him yell, "Shoot them!" Going to look for the flare gun that I had dropped during my fall. It laid at least 10 feet from me, and I quickly retrieved it. Spinning around, I noticed that a massive hole had been dug underneath the ship, with hundreds of them pouring out. I grabbed the flare gun, reloaded it, and shot a flare into the massive group, and watched as they were engulfed into flames. Whatever the fire didn't kill, the massive explosion from the ship took care of. I am now stuck on this rock, with little else to do, so I pulled out my radio and made one last transmission to Mission Command. This is Jack. I was the commander of the search and rescue crew sent to retrieve the lost miners. Everyone's dead, except for me. Do not come to Mars. Do not come to try to rescue me. There will be no point. This planet is infested with humanoid creatures that are extremely dangerous. Abandon all activity here and save yourself. Again, this is Jack, signing off. After the transmission ended, I took off my helmet and allowed myself to join my team. Tonight's story was Do Not Enter Here, written by myself. If you enjoyed this, chances are you'll enjoy the content over on Scary Stormy's channel. He is a good friend, narrator, and overall person. Please do check him out and tell him PA sent you. I want to say thank you to all my lovely patrons, 242 Reads, Rando Calrissian, Pam, Silverthreads, Seraphine the Midnight Bard, and Hair-Raising Narratives. If you want to join these lovely travelers by the light of my fire, you can do so by becoming a Patreon. Your support is always appreciated, but never expected.
But as always, travelers, once you step into my realm, there's no stepping out.